Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Dropback TV. So we've gone live again, and we're going to be having a look at sort of doing some rigs and to see what people's thoughts are on what knots to use on rigs and all different sorts of bits and bobs. And obviously we can always have a chat if anybody wants to chat about anything, obviously fishing related. So here's my little box of tricks. So I'm going to turn them on. Just to make it a little bit brighter. So what I thought we could do, as I say, go for a few rigs. We've got a couple of viewers, welcome. So we've got all sorts of bits and bobs in here. So I thought, first off, we'll just go through a simple rig, just a supple braid. So we've got some supple braid. So we're just going to make just an ordinary supple braid rig. So we've got a measurer on top of this tray. So we'll do about 10 inch. We'll lose a bit anyway. So we've got this braid. So next thing we need a hook. So obviously hooks, all various different sizes, different style patterns. So I don't know if you can see on the paper. So we've got, that's sort of a crank, that curved shank sort of hook. And then we've got that's a mixer style hook. So we'll just go for a mixer up. So literally, you're going to grab your braid. You're going to do a figure of 8 knot. Pull that down. Get my eyes on. Pull that down. Pull that nice and tight. Get your scissors. Trim the little bit off. So next, you want to get your boiler. And find the boiler needle. Put this boiler needle through a boiler. Broken. bit of an hard boiler, this one. Right, I do apologise. Just give me 2 seconds to go and fetch a different boiling needle. It's just in my bag. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, so we'll use a different boiler this time. But I think one's a bit hard. So we'll put the boiler on its boiling needle. Get its braid. Get the loop that we've made. Put the boiler on its loop. Get yourself a boiler stop. So we've got a boiler stop, so we'll put the boiler stop through the hair and then pull the boiler down to stop. So we've got a piece of supple braid, boiler on the end. So we get this mixer up through the eye. Now, a lot of people will say that, oh, your hair's too long, or other bits and bobs, but the way I like to tie it is I like to tie my hair KD style, which is you do a couple of turns down the hair and then you move the hair up and then you do 4 or 5 turns underneath the hair and then back through the eye. You can see it, and then that's that like that. But what that does is it gives your hook a really aggressive curve. And I've made a lot of these rigs and I've caught a hell of a lot of fish on these rigs. So when that is like that, it will get you every time. So that's the boiler side of it. Now if you want to, you could put a kicker on it or a piece of shrink tubing just to give that hook even more of an aggressive look to it. kicker. We'll thread the kicker down. Hi bro, thank you for joining me. So we thread the kicker down and you can see the hook has got even more of an aggressive look to it. Now I put money on it, that is getting a fish's lip every time. So all I'm going to do on the other end is simply just tie another figure of 8 loop. So here we have it, one finished rig. It's only a short rig, but I would put that rig in a PVA bag and I guarantee you that rig will catch me a fish. So it's that simple. So that is a bog standard Supple Braid rig. So we can look on some of the other rigs. So we can go down the road of a Ronnie Rig. So we can make a Ronnie Rig right now. So we'll get us boom, because I absolutely love this stuff. It is so rigid and it just gives me the confidence that I know that rig is going to push away from that lead every time. So we're going to cut about 6 inches a boom, because I don't like making massive rigs. All my rigs are about 6 or 7 inches long. So we've got the thicker boom. So I've got the 25 pound stuff. So we've got the quarter crimps. So with a 25 pound, you use a 6mm. Is it a 6mm or 7? Can't remember now. I think it's a 7 actually. Confuse myself. Yeah. So yeah, with a 20 pound, you use a 6mm crimp. With a 25, you use a 7mm crimp. I confused myself then. So literally, we'll get a crimp, put the line in the crimp, and then we just pass it back through the crimp, pull it down, because I only like a nice little loop. then we crimp it down, and then that loop ain't going nowhere. And then you do exactly the same on the other end. So I like to still add the anti-tangle sleeve to my rigs. Whether it's stiff boom or not, I still like to have it. A lot of the time I use helicopter sort of rigs. So I still like to use. I know it's hard starting a channel. I know it takes time, and I say I'm not saying I'm the best angler in the world, but we'll get there. Well, thank you for everybody's support. It means a lot. So we need swivel. So we have a Ronnie Rig swivel. So what we do with that is on the other end of his boom, before we crimp it, we stick the swivel on the boom section, and again loop it through the crimp, pull the crimp down, and then simply crimp it tight. So then we have a boom section with the swivel on, ready for the next part. So the next part, a lot of people, so that's what the boom section will look like now. So a lot of people do it differently. So there's loads of different ways you can do it. One's not better than the other, you know what I mean? So it all depends on how you like to do it. So get your hook. So I like to go the same way I do with my line. So I'll go through, I'll put the swivel through the back of the hook. Some people like to do it the other way around. To me, I don't think it matters, but I go through the back of the eye pointing forward. So then you've got that section there. So there's two ways you could do it. You could put a small piece of shrink tubing on there, or you can get a kicker, one of your kickers, and just cut the kicker down a little bit, and then thread your kicker on your hook, over the swivel. So it'll look like that. So the hook can't come off the swivel, and you can change the hook if you want to change the hook, if it goes blunt or whatever. So the next thing, again, it's all down to personal preference. If you like to use bait floss, you can stick a swivel on it. If you like to use bait screws, put a bait screw on it. If you like to use the pins, you can stick the pin on it. So it doesn't matter which way you do it. There's not a right and a wrong way. So I like my bait screws because it just makes it a lot easier than trying to find a boiler stop if you've got hair on it, or if you've got a swivel on it. You've got to keep taking bait floss out and everything else. So stick the swivel on there, and then slide down the hook bead. So we'll put the hook bead about level or just below the barb of the hook. So you can see that. That's the bait screw on there, and it's sat up against the stop on the hook. So that is your bog standard Ronnie rig, and just steam it over your kettle to make the boom section straight, and away you go. So that's another rig that you could tie yourself rather than going and buying it from a shop. You know what I mean? I always like to tie my own rigs because I think you get a lot more satisfaction when you catch a carp on a rig that you've made yourself rather than just going and buying it from a shop. So in my eyes, making your own rig is a lot better than going and buying one from a shop. But so the first rig that we made, say it'd be perfect to go in a PVA bag. So it has bro. It has come a long way in 20 years. I can remember when we was making rigs years and years ago, and it was just a bit of braid, hook on it, swivel, you'd chuck it out and just wait for a fish. But no, it's not like that anymore. It's a lot more technical now. But yeah, the first rig that we had is perfect for a PVA bag, which to say, this is absolutely brilliant. It's an amazing bit of kit. It's so fast for tying a PVA bag now. There's no messing about with PVA string or anything. It's literally, you stick that ring around this, it goes around it. There you go. So yeah, stick that round there, blob that inside your bag, and then you take that off. That expands to the size of your bag, so it's nice and tight and gripped around the bottom. And then you've got a handy little scoop, so you can just scoop your bait up, and it's got a little notch in it where you just put your line across it to stop your lead and stuff falling in before it's ready. And then you literally just tighten that down onto the bag itself and just lick it, and that's it. You don't have to worry about fastening the bag or anything. This does all of it. So it's absolutely brilliant bit of kit. So we've made a couple of rigs. So the next time we're going to be going fishing, hopefully, is going to be Monday. So we're going to go and do a 24-hour session, or maybe a little bit longer. And we're going to go down to Grimshaws on the Pride of Derby complex. As I've joined, and I've only been there once, but we didn't manage to get anything. But it has been so busy with lockdown, it's unreal. So my tactics when I went down the first time was, I went down and I thought I found some fish, which I was pretty confident there was in front of me, but I was sort of pushed into the peg that I was in because the place was so rammed. So you're talking only 3 or 4 acre lake, but you was talking 20 blokes down there with 3 rods out each. You know what I mean? So you got 60 lines going in the water, and then fish just weren't having none of it. And out of all of them 60 lines over that night, there was one fish come out, and that was it. So you can sort of understand how much pressure that lake's under at the minute, and how much bait's gone in it. So for me, my tactics this time is PVA bag, small pellets, and that's it. There's going to be no spotting over the top. There's obviously, if the fish come on, then I might change my tactics, but at the minute, as it stands, the fish have seen a lot of bait. So for me, to sort of go away from the massive piles of bait, I think my better chances are going to be one boiler in a mouthful of pellets, and I think that's the way we're going to go with it. But as I say, that'll be next week, and I will be doing a video why I'm there, and I might even sort of do a live broadcast or stream as we're there at night, just to give people an update of what's cracking off. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we might get some nice fish. There's been some absolute crackers come out of there. And I say, it's not a massive place, but the whole of the Pride of Derby complex, the lakes have got such nice fishing. And I say, it's only a small 4 acre lake, but we're talking like upper 20s, maybe a 30. And not too long back, there was at least 2 upper 20s come out. I think a 25 and a 27. So to sort of bag something like that would be an absolute dream, especially if I could get it on camera as well, so you guys could see it. Which I say, that's what I'm doing all this for. It's I'm hoping that I can entertain. The sound's a bit low, is it? Do you want me to speak up a bit louder? Is that better? I do need to pray to the carp gods. I do. So, unfortunately, at the minute, I say I'm literally doing all of this filming and everything from my phone. So, until I can sort of afford to buy myself a camera and get a proper mic and stuff, obviously the sound might be a bit dodgy. I talk quite softly anyway, so I'm having to shout a little bit for people to hear because I've got quite a deep voice. So I do apologise if it's a bit silent. So, but that aside, say we're going to go and do that fishing. So we're going to be using the first rig. So this first rig that I've tied now, this one, I'm going to take this rig with me, and I'm going to put this rig on my rod. And if I catch a fish, then there's the proof. This is going to be the rig that's on my rod. In the PVA bag, on the krill wafter, because I think at the minute, I think a lot of fish have seen about every pop-up there is going at the minute, because every single person in the country just seems to be going mad on pop-ups. What size lead? I'll be using 1.5 ounces inline lead inside my bag, because I've got to be chucking about 19 wraps. It is from the bank. The lake that I'm going to be fishing, the first 6 pegs on the opposite side is like a nature reserve, so you can't fish on the opposite bank. So you have to get, if you want to fish to the margin, you've got to fish from the opposite bank. So it's about 19 wraps, and my rods are 3 pound test curve rods, and I've not put them under a massive amount of stress through casting. So I've downsized my leads to 1.5 ounces lead, because obviously the bag's going to be full of pellets as well, so it's gonna add weight to it. And I don't think I'd have any issue on chucking 1.5 ounces lead, 19 wraps, which is about 70 yards, I think. About 19 wraps, about 70 yards. Maybe wrong. I'm not 100% on my conversion skills, but yeah, I think it's about 70 yards. So it'll be 1.5 ounces lead in a PVA bag with small 3 and 4 mil pellets. The krill, sticky krill pellets, you smell absolutely amazing, proper fishy. And I say I've got the krill wafters, the sticky stuff with the krill. I absolutely love it, and I've caught a lot of fish on it. Last year I was banging them out left, right, and centre, and that's what I was using. And I say I prefer to have a wafter, because I think a pop-up, it just presents the hook to the fish. And this is only my sort of look on it, but for me, a pop-up presents the hook to the fish, which sometimes you can get a little bit of glare off a hook. You know what I mean? I think that just might deter a fish from, you know, I might be wrong. It might just be me, but in my eyes, when I see it in a tank, or you know what I mean, or in the side of the finger, you see that sat there, popped up like that, and it's just like you're just saying to that fish, look, I've got a hook on it. Whereas if you've got a wafter, that hook is sat on the bottom, and your bait is just sort of floating above it. So say that's the lake bed. Let me stick this border. So yeah, say that's the lake bed, your hook sat on it, and that is just floating around there. That's just wafting around with a current underneath the water, instead of being stuck up like that, saying come and get me. You know what I mean? So in my eyes, that is a better presentation than a pop-up. Now if I was fishing somewhere that was like dead silty, what's that? It's like putting a sign out, side your shop. Yeah, it is, yeah, it is like putting a sign outside your shop. Because you might, you know what I mean, you might as well put a big neon sign there, just with a big arrow, just pointing at it. This is me up. You know what I mean? But for me, I say wafters. Obviously, if it was somewhere that was massively silty, because where I'm going to, it's an old gravel pit, so it is quite a firm bottom. So when my lead's going to hit the bottom, it is going to land on gravel 99% of the time. But then the other 1% of the time, it's still going to be hard, sort of clay bottom. It's not going to be massively silty where my rig's going to disappear into silt. So if I was fishing somewhere like that, I would still use a wafter, but I'd just simply use an helicopter rig setup instead of a lead clip setup, and I'd just move the bead up 4 or 5 inches off the lead. So if the lead goes plummeting in, my rig's still sat on top of the sill. So that's my opinion on pop-up. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I will use a pop-up on a Ronnie rig, but that's just purely because that is the way that a Ronnie rig is designed. A Ronnie rig is designed to use a pop-up because of the way the hook turns and the way that it's got to be sat to work efficiently. That is the way that it's got to be sat. It's got to be sat up off the water. If that hook is sat on the bed, then you might as well not have a swivel on it, because it's not, the hook's not going to turn while it's on the lake bed. It's only going to turn when it's up off the lake bed and it's free to turn. So if you're using a Ronnie rig, then yes, I would use a pop-up. But using just an ordinary rig, you know what I mean, I tie a multi-rig, which is half boom, half supple braid, which again, I'll tie it with a KD style pier on it. So it gives you that massively aggressive hooks. I keep saying this, but it gives you a massively aggressive hook stance. And I really do think that is going in that bottom lip every time. I went fishing a few months back, I was working away down at Suffolk in Suffolk, and we went to Suffolk Water Park, me and a friend that I was working with, and we went down to Suffolk Water Park. Brilliant place, absolutely brilliant place. Ponds are amazing, and they're huge, and the fish are immaculate. Every single fish that we caught was absolutely immaculate. So the video on my YouTube channel, the mission. So the pictures of the mirror and the common, they're two of the 4 fish that I caught down at Suffolk Water Park. So the mirror, absolutely stunning fish. It was so nice. The pictures don't do it any justice. They do look nice pictures, but the fish look 10 times better than the pictures. And again, didn't weigh any fish. I wasn't bothered about weight. You know what I mean? If I catch an absolute lump, a massive hippo, then yeah, I'll weigh it, because then it might be a PB. You know what I mean? But sometimes you've just got to look at it and think the weight just doesn't matter. It's a nice fish. Just enjoy the fish. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's just, for a lot of people, it gets too much about, oh, it's not big enough, just throw it back, I don't want that one. And you know what I mean? Sometimes you've just got to sit back and just enjoy the fish for what it is. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? Just enjoy a nice fish. If it's got a lovely scale pattern to it, if it's a lovely linear or fully scaled, you know what I mean? Or if it's a lovely brown, dark, common, enjoy it for what it is. You know what I mean? Because it's not every day you catch them. So it's one of them. You know what I mean? A lot of people look at it in different ways to how I look at it. You know what I mean? And I say I like to enjoy my fishing. I don't go fishing just to go and catch fish, just so I can beat my personal best. You know what I mean? That's not what it's all about. So enough chit chat for now. So I'm going to go into my box a little bit. So we've got a Fox system tray. Now my brother will know about this. It's old school, but when I got my very first Fox system tray, it was the best bit of kit I ever had. And that, you know what I mean? I'm not saying the Corda one, the kit that they've got out. A couple of my friends have got them. They're quite good. They're quite good organisers. But for me, with a Fox organiser, how you get the little tubs with all the separate bits in. You know what I mean? You get the other little tubs that you can put your hooks and your swivels and everything else in. That's right. It is. It's proper. You know what I mean? You get the little dispensers that you can put your braid and your PVA string in and everything else. You know what I mean? It is quality stuff. And you do have to pay for it. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, it's not cheap. But so as I go back to the rigs, as I was saying before about whether you put a bait spike on it or a screw or a swivel, whatever. So if you do put swivels on it, you're going to want some bait floss to put your bait on. So we'll have a look what else is in here. We've got some dark matter, putty. I generally don't put putty on my rigs anymore. because I found that a few times it slid up the rig. It never stayed where it should stay. So I tended to go back to putting a split shot on my rig for a pop-up. So we've got some hybrid stiff coated braid, some good stuff. And I say I will make rigs out of this, but for me the boom section, I do really like the stiffness of it. But if say I was fishing over an uneven bottom, then I would use a coated braid over a stiff boom, because it's got more chance of it settling on the uneven ground rather than just sitting straight, you know what I mean? So your rig might be not sitting with the bed, so then it might look out of place to a fish. So that's in my eyes. That's how I look at it. So finger stall, absolutely imperative that you have one of them when you're spodding or leading around with your braid main line, because it will cut through your finger like butter. Yeah, I can remember using snake skin years ago. Another good one. But yeah, there's loads of them. You know what I mean? It all comes down to personal preference when it comes down to gear for me. Because as I said before, it is all down to personal preference, because of how people like tying knots and what sort of stuff people like to use. There's so much stuff out there, it is unreal. And you know what I mean? The possibilities are endless. So you could is what for the bottom? Is what for the bottom, Rich? Well, we're going to have a go at tying one more rig then, and then I think we're going to wrap this session up then. So we're going to start with a boom section again. So I'm going to tie my multi-rig that I told you about earlier. Yeah, my finger stall is for when I'm using, when I've got my marker and spod rod and I'm using braided main line, which is saying it'll cut through your finger like butter. Because it's sharp. So I've got about 6 inches a boom section. So we're going to do exactly the same as what we did before. We're going to put a loop on one end, we're going to stick an anti-tangle sleeve on as we did before. So that's that section as it is for now. So now we go back to the supple braid again. So we get put about 10 inches on. You don't need 10 inches, but it's just going to make it easy to cut for tying the knots and stuff to show you. So again, we do figure of 8 loop, pull that taut, trim that bit off there. So then we get a hook. So stickers hook on. I say I'd have my bait on, but I generally normally make my hairs about 1.5 inches. So then we go not and there. Again. You can stick a kicker on it. And gives you that nice aggressive hook. So then we have the 2 parts. We've got the 2 parts there. Now we're going to marry them together. So we get the boom section, we get the braided section, and then what we do is, a lot of people call the knot a lot of different things. So we do a loop in the braid, and then we pass that through the loop and hold it there, and then so it looks like that, and then you pass the braid through the loop about 4 or 5 times. So then we pull the braid so it starts tightening up, and then what we do with this end of the boom section is we just get a lighter and we just mushroom the end of it, and then what you do is you can pull your braid down to that mushroom, still easing the knot together. Pulling it on. Right. And then pull that chart, trim that off. So then you have a boom section with a supple braid part at the end, and that is not coming off there for love nor money. So a lot of people call that a union knot. And then you could use that as a pop-up rig, or you can use it as just an ordinary rig. You've just got that boom section there just to make sure that it pushes away from the lead. So I'm afraid that's all I've got time for tonight. So I say on Monday, a week on Monday, I'll be out fishing for an overnighter. So hopefully we'll be able to catch some fish and get them on camera, and then that's when the next video will be out. So until then, tight lines, keep fishing, keep smiling.